face many barriers in the American workplace, and all of us have a responsibility to address that problem. During my 12 years on the D.C. Circuit, a majority of my law clerks were women, and almost all of them went on to clerk at the Supreme Court. A clerkship on the Supreme Court is one of the most coveted achievements and credentials in American law. I'm proud that all 4 of my newly hired law clerks at the Supreme Court are women, a first in the history of the Supreme Court.
A first in the history of the Supreme Court. Well, let's talk about the historical context of the awful politics of personal destruction we witnessed in the Kavanaugh confirmation process, the happy ending, and the likely impact over the course of the next several decades, it appears. Joining us tonight is a man who has more than a little practice at divining such things. He's presidential historian Doug Wead. Doug, great to have you with us.
Thanks, Lou.
This has been just a vile exercise on the part of the Dems, the radical Dems, I keep saying, but there's no longer a differentiation. I really believe the party has become utterly radical and out of any semblance of a connection to the heart of what is America and who Americans are in 2018. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's painful to see. It's a power struggle, and to see it paraded as if it's about morality. I mean, you can look at the Innocence Project, you know, Lou, where they went into the prisons and they found men on death row, and they used forensics and DNA, and in some cases found that they were innocent. And why were they on death row in the first place? Because 3 eyewitnesses saw them commit that murder and were 100% sure it was true until DNA could prove it couldn't be true. It wasn't true. So human testimony is always needed to be helped by thorough investigations.
In this case, we couldn't even find human testimony. We found hearsay. We found no one who would corroborate, in fact, refuted the claims of the witnesses who wanted to charge Judge Kavanaugh. There is remarkable that 3 women stepped forward, and there was not a single corroborating witness, not a single corroborating contemporaneous testimony on the part of a friend or family member to support the claims.
In fact, there was corroboration for Judge Kavanaugh, which was what made it fascinating. Yeah, I think that the Democrats have painted themselves into a corner now. You think? I mean, first attacking, for months attacking Donald Trump, but now saying, oh, it's Brett Kavanaugh. Now they're saying, oh, it's Winston Churchill. I mean, this thing just never ends. And I think that's going to backfire on them. It's a cry wolf.
Yeah, and according to the latest polls, it's backfiring. It is backwashing. It is a moment that the Democrats are likely not to forget. And I hope Republicans certainly don't forget, because with 29 days to the midterm elections, this is about the future of the country. It's also about the soul of the country, and what the Chuck Schumer-led Democratic senators, the radical Dems of the Judiciary Committee, what they have just done to the American people is a profound affront. It is an affront to the American way of life and all we stand for, in my opinion. Can you think of any kind of parallel when one political party left its moorings so completely and set off in a direction that's unrecognizable to most Americans?
Yes. I don't want to depress you, Lou, but
you won't depress me. By the way, you know what? We've got a president who's driving this country to the future. I don't get depressed.
Well, these painful moments have been recycled through history. George Washington was in despair over his own cabinet. They were so bitterly divided, and accusations of sexual misconduct, and there was a duel, as you know.
Right.
So there's been some very, very bitter moments. Andrew Jackson's wife who died, and the press against William Henry Harrison, his sons dying.
Those moments were a little different and somewhat afar. Anything in modern, you got anything in modern American history that comes close? Because I think this is a period that leaves the 60s in civil rights as a divisive issue, the Vietnam War as a divisive issue. I think this is more profound. It may not be as public and boisterous, but it is, I think, we're all the more riven as a society because of what one party has chosen to do. It is self-destructive.
It's very painful, and you have the contrast with this president who is just on a roll. I mean, there are now jobs to the poorest of the poor in this country. Everything is turned around, and it's driving his opponents and his enemies crazy. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "I'm not angry that you lied. I'm angry because now I can't believe anything else you have to say." And I think the Democrats are in a little bit of trouble now. They need to kind of back off and get their
moorings.
Let's
not advise them. We don't do that on this show. We want them to continue until they can continue no more. Doug Wead, it's always great to have you with us.
Thank you,
so much.
Luke.